Hello, tea friends. This is Barb Belly of Barb's Tea Service, and we are back on TV Studios for our podcast.
After a brief break.
After a brief break, exactly. We're going to talk about that little hiatus.
Yes.
But I am here with studio engineer Arm Candy, Chris Gully.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Chris.
Hello. Hi. Glad to be here.
Great. I am glad to have you here. And this is our 12th podcast.
So many good things come in a dozen. Donuts, bagels, scones.
You're right.
Bakers.
Yes. So I'm excited about it being number 12 because this is also part of our Steeper by the Dozen.
Yes.
You know, we love that. That's part of our book series.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite an achievement. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say cheers, and we're going to be talking about a lot of things today.
Uh-huh.
A lot of ground to cover, as usual.
Yes.
And we're going to go back and finish up our trip to Vienna.
Yes.
And then we're going to talk about an afternoon tea place in northern Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And then talk a little bit more about the cream tea and a southern tea.
Yes. There's a lot.
Oh my gosh, there's so much.
Talk fast.
Yes. And it is National Cream Tea Day.
Mm-hmm.
And also the third Downton Abbey movie has been announced, the screening date.
I'm so excited.
I knew you would be. And that's coming up in September of 2025.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But first, tea. Okay. So today's selection's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. Not really too significant to our topic today because, as I mentioned, we're going back to Vienna. We're going to talk about the Sacher Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And I am completely out of my Sacher tea. For those who are watching, I'm going to show this tin.
That's a tragedy.
It really is. However, for those who need to know, it's on their website, and
yes.
you can still purchase it.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So since I was out of that, I went to a kind of a fun, different tea here. This is, the full name is Thé de Sage from Demon Frere.
We need to work on our French.
Yes, I think there's going to be a few mispronunciations this podcast.
Yes.
But so this was a gift from our favorite New York couple, Matt and Jenna.
Mm-hmm.
And they were in Paris earlier this year, and they brought back a whole sample case. The packaging is beautiful. I'm going to show this to the camera for those who are watching.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it came in this really lovely packaging.
Mm-hmm. All right.
There's 4 in that set.
Yep.
So this one is, well, I'm not going to say too much about it, and we'll just sample, and then I'll explain what's in it. You kind of give me your thoughts, Chris.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
I will tell you it's a blend of black and green.
Okay. All right. That's good. That's good. So for me, I'm picking up somewhere between almonds and hazelnuts. Kind of that taste to me.
So nutty, but on the sweet end of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Not bitter.
Right.
For sure.
No, I think that's a great assessment because it does have bergamot.
Oh, okay.
Which we know is in Earl Grey.
Right.
But there's also floral petals in there.
All right.
And I think the hazelnut might be the vanilla. There's a bit of vanilla in there. Maybe that's what you're thinking.
I think so. All right.
Okay. So this tea has quite a history.
Mm-hmm.
Demon Frere. That would be the brothers Damon
mm-hmm.
or Damon.
Mm-hmm.
And it has its roots back to France in the time of King Louis XIV.
Uh-huh.
So that's a long time.
It is.
And we might do a whole podcast just devoted to that.
Well, we should save it for our 14th podcast.
Oh, I like that.
All right.
That's great. Okay. Let's do that for the lucky number 14.
Yep.
So that's a long time, but not quite as long as we have been away from the studio.
No.
Not centuries, but just
Yeah.
a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And we were up at our up north place that we affectionately call Pemberley Pines.
Yes. Which kind of started off as a bit of a joke and then kind of ended up being what we called it.
The title,
yes.
but not the place.
Oh, right.
That was always serious.
Yeah.
So, yes. And you can tell I'm still dealing with my allergies,
yes.
so pardon me.
Oh. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
A bit more tea. Okay.
Right.
So we were up north at Pemberley Pines, and you had actually likened it to Schönbrunn and Versailles.
The origin stories are similar.
Yes. Started out as a hunting camp.
Yes.
And then became this beautiful palace.
Exactly.
Which we reside in half the year.
Yeah.
Okay. So wanted to go back and just talk a little bit more about our trip to Vienna, because we did talk about our visit to the Schönbrunn Palace,
right,
home of the Habsburgs. And this was part of our Blue Danube cruise a few years ago.
Right.
And we had a free day.
Yes.
So as I recall, you and my brother Ed kind of found your own museums that you wanted to look at.
Right.
Because they have a lot.
They do.
And then I was with my sister-in-law and my cousin, and we were kind of shopping and grazing through Vienna. And so what was the museum that you were at?
I wish I could remember. I think it was their National Museum. And just as an aside, of course, this is kind of the end days of the COVID situation.
Right.
And one of the unusual things was basically we had Vienna practically to ourselves. And this museum I went to, which I'm sure is a very busy place, I had the run of the place by myself.
Okay.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was pretty unusual. But one of my guilty pleasures is when we go to these places, I always kind of end up if the museum has I guess Western martial arts exhibits, like suits of armor, weapons, flags, all that sort of thing. To me it's an interesting visit. I know Paris has got a lot of these, and I certainly I think my first exposure to going to a place like that was my 1975 trip to Paris way back when, and we went to these places, and I was absolutely enthralled with it for some reason. But the suits of armor are quite remarkable. They're in a lot of ways works of art in a very weird way.
No, I can appreciate that, because we also did a little bit of that when we went to the Tower of London.
Right,
And
exactly.
They had all the suits of some crazy stuff.
I know.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
So you enjoyed your little time.
I
your
did.
time there.
Yeah.
So as I recall, I was coming back through town. We had stopped at some lovely places to shop, and the plan was we were going to meet you for lunch in downtown in the marketplace,
Right.
at Vienna. So we estimated we would be able to meet you up there from when we touched base, about 10 minutes.
Right.
And serendipity stepped in
It did.
for me. So we were walking along, and we came to the Sacher Hotel.
And the Sacher Hotel is?
It is the place where they sell the Sacher torte.
Wow.
So, and did I mention that?
Yeah.
Probably Sacher.
Yeah.
But all right. So Sacher, we go. I said, we have got to go in here, because Vienna is known for their Sacher torte.
Yes.
That lovely little chocolate fudgy treat. So we walk in. I am just blown away by just the aromas.
Yes.
And it's beautiful. So we get in line, and I brought several small pieces of Sacher tortes to take home. And also I brought that tea, for those who need to know. And we ended up being there for quite a long time.
Yes.
And so I think because we have Find Friends on each other's iPhones,
Right.
you could see that the time was ticking away.
I was monitoring. Of course, in the spirit of, rolling with things, my response to that was order more beer.
You're a trooper.
I am.
Ah, yes. Okay.
That's what I do.
So we ended up at this Sacher hotel longer than we had
Yep.
anticipated because we hadn't planned it. But anyway, we brought all this stuff back. And I brought these Sacher torts home for our kids
Right.
and some relatives. And I would say I was probably the biggest fan.
Mhm.
Some of them thought it was a little too sweet.
Yeah.
But it didn't need refrigeration,
No.
which was amazing.
Yeah.
Made it through all the
Yep.
plane
Travel.
trips
Yep.
and all the travel. So, kind of got me thinking, where did this Sacher tort come from?
Mhm.
And do you know where it came from?
A Sacher?
It did.
All right.
Spoiler alert. So it originated in 1832,
Uh-huh.
and we have a prince, Prince Metternich. I'm probably
Yeah.
not pronouncing that correctly, but anyway, he was holding a big event,
Mhm.
and he needed a great dessert for his guests.
Yes.
His top chef falls ill.
Terrible. Terrible.
It was.
Yeah.
So who's left in charge? The 16-year-old apprentice
Mhm.
named,
Sacher?
yes,
All right.
Franz Sacher.
All right.
And you know what? The prince was really worried that he was going to be embarrassed.
That I'm sure, and the consequences of that could be awful.
Yes, if I were evaluated on my bad desserts, I'd be long gone.
Wow. Wow.
So anyway, so this Franz Sacher not only comes up to speed, but he excels. He's just, this is a hit.
Yep.
It's court approved.
Yes.
That's how it's named.
Yep.
And it's a mixture of chocolate and butter and apricots and vanilla and that signature
Yep.
hard chocolate fudgy shell.
It was a hit.
It was a hit. So, the hotel was who founded the hotel was Franz Sacher's son Edward,
Huh.
and so they kept that brand of luxury.
Right.
And today you can still go there, stay there.
Mhm.
Maybe that might be something we could do.
Yes.
Pick up some more tea,
Yes.
and also and they continue to sell the Sacher tort.
Mhm.
So that's kind of neat. But just a side note on this prince.
Mhm.
He wasn't born a prince.
He was appointed?
He
or-
was appointed.
Okay.
Yes. So he was appointed by the emperor because of his so-called great successes, although historians are debating
Yes.
that.
Okay.
But one thing that was kind of interesting, or you might say not very interesting,
Yes.
he was said to be the most boring man in Europe at
Wow.
the time.
Okay.
And he actually boasted that he could bore men to death.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm sorry. My mind just kind of wandered. What were you saying?
Did this prince have a podcast?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, that kind of wraps up our trip to Vienna.
Uh-huh.
And like I said, hope to be back.
Yes.
Okay. So we were talking about, we're going to come back and talk about our trip up north.
Mhm.
But today we're going to celebrate a couple of UK imports.
Yes.
One of them is the Downton Abbey third movie has been
Announced.
announced
Yep.
as far as when it'll be in the studios for us to come and view.
Yes.
That will be in September 2025.
Okay.
And what's kind of interesting, and I'm putting this out there for anybody who wants to do a Downton Abbey afternoon tea
Mhm.
talk
Mhm.
and have Barb's Tea Service
Yep.
present,
Yes.
we're already starting to get booked for 2025. I think somewhat of
Yes.
anticipation of this.
I know.
One of them is in another state. So how about that?
Watch this space.
Exactly. Thank you. And the other UK import that we're celebrating today
Mhm.
is its National Cream Day. National Cream Tea Day.
Yes. Right.
So that's again, something that they celebrate in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
It's a variation of afternoon tea.
So what's the difference?
So, when we have the afternoon tea,
Right.
we have usually the 3-tiered tray.
Right. Okay.
Scones, sweets, and savories.
Right.
With the cream tea,
Mm-hmm.
we just have the scones, and it's served with either cream or jam.
Okay. So why would you decide to do a cream tea versus an afternoon tea? Is it just a kind of more of a break or something like that?
Yeah, it's a choice. And if you're going to do an afternoon tea, usually that takes reservations or a bit more planning.
Sure.
But you can go in just to have a break, just
Mm-hmm.
have a tea and a scone.
All right.
And pretty much any time of the day.
Okay.
There's some dispute as to always the controversy of scones, but there's some controversy as to when it actually came about, but probably in the regions of Sconegate,
Sure.
Devon,
Yeah.
and Cornwall.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, this is something that we've seen as we've
Yeah.
gone around England.
Right.
A lot of venues just post cream tea.
Yeah.
You can go in there, get
Yeah.
a scone and a cup of tea.
Yeah, it's a refreshment.
It is a refreshment.
It's kind of a post-lunch thing. If you need a nosh and
Right.
tea, then there you go.
Right. So something after you've depleted your energy at the museum
That's right.
or at the Sacher Hotel.
That's right. Wow. Okay.
All right. So last week we weren't in the studio because we were up north.
Right.
And we were staying at our Pemberley Pines.
Uh-huh.
And on Monday,
Mm-hmm.
I went and met up with my great friend,
Mm-hmm.
longtime friend.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say old because it's not old friend.
Oh, yeah.
Not in age, but in term of friendship,
Yes.
years of friendship.
Right.
So we met up. She lives on the west side of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Our place is on the east side.
Right.
So we met up in Petoskey
Yes.
at the Inn at Bay Harbor.
Yes.
It's beautiful, right on the shores of Lake Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And we had stayed there before, but we never had afternoon tea.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this whole vibe of the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
It really kind of brings out the old time
Right.
hotels like the Grand Hotel.
Right.
It's expansive,
Mhm.
it's white,
Mm-hmm.
and just luxury,
Mm-hmm.
that vintage feel.
Yep.
So they offer this afternoon tea.
Uh-huh.
And when we went up there, they don't have the tea spot that they have is not facing the lake.
Uh-huh.
But they make up for it in a couple of different ways. So it's on the second floor,
Uh-huh.
and it overlooks the lobby.
Yes.
Where they have beautiful chandeliers and that.
Well, that's not so in various tea venues. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's not unusual that they're located sometimes actually in the lobby area, or near the lobby. Hotel Townsend. There was that place in Washington D.C.
Right.
For example. So that's kind of par.
That's right. Actually, because we were at the Willard.
Yes. Right.
And we had tea in the lobby. That was a standard
Right.
thing for some of these luxury hotels.
Right.
And that's where the term lobbyist came from.
Aha. Wow. Okay.
People would meet. I don't know if they were always having afternoon tea, but
They should have been.
they should have been. Yes.
Right.
Okay. So this hotel though isn't that old.
Mm-hmm.
It's only 26 years old.
Wow.
So if you multiply by 2,
Yes.
that still isn't as long as I have known Loretta. So
Oh, wow.
we've gone back quite a while.
A day or two.
Right.
Right.
So when we went there for tea, I'm going to say I would highly recommend this
Mhm.
place because the service is great, the food was great,
Mm-hmm.
and our server was Zaina.
Uh-huh.
Outstanding.
Spelled with an X.
Spelled with an X,
Yep.
right. And when we first sat down, one of the first things she said to us is, "This is an afternoon tea, not a high tea."
Ah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That was just beautiful to hear that.
Wow.
Yes. So she knew the difference, the distinction,
Yeah.
and my eyes lit up. And
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, this is great." I knew we were in good hands.
Right. Okay.
So,
Very good.
and sometime we'll talk about that. And
Uh-huh.
we'll talk about the difference of afternoon tea and high tea.
Very good.
Okay. So that was our trip north. That was how I spent one full day.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
after we left the hotel after Laura and I left the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
We went out, sat outside on the deck. Then we took a little leisurely drive to Charlevoix, walked around.
Sounds fantastic.
Oh, and we stopped and had a little snack along the lake.
Lovely. Yes.
And then, but I think that contrasted a bit to your Monday.
I had a different kind of day.
What happened?
So I had to take a little trip to pick up a golf cart of all things,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a hot day,
Mm-hmm.
and my poor little trailer tires. One of them decided to get a little tired. Play on words.
Oh.
And blow up on me halfway home. So I had to kind of deal with that in a 100-degree day by the side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was, everything got fixed. And I was back on the way, but it was a long day. So it wasn't quite the luxurious, peaceful day that some others had on that day.
So not a lakeside view
No,
at the
no.
side of the road.
No.
Chandeliers.
No, nothing like that.
Okay, so but it is happy ending. It is repaired.
Yep.
It's doing great.
It's doing great. Yeah,
It's back at the Palace.
it is.
Pemberley Pines Palace.
That's right. And every palace should have a golf cart in my kingdom.
Yes. Okay, so we had a great time. We did put the tea garden
Mm-hmm.
in order,
Right.
and did a lot of planting. So we're going to be sharing some of those stories soon. But we have a tea garden
Yes.
at Pemberley, and it's coming along very nicely.
Our tea garden actually has another name too. It's the Garden of Cosmic Speculation, just in case you're wondering.
Yes. Okay. So so you can speculate, or you can have tea, or you can do both.
That's right.
Okay. A lot of options.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a little bit of time left.
Right.
And I did want to talk about an afternoon tea that I had today.
Yeah. Move on.
It was this week. It was
Yeah.
2 days ago, so not too far off.
Yeah.
And this was a really fun event.
Yes. It sounded great.
Oh, it was wonderful. So it was a Southern themed afternoon tea.
Uh-huh.
And this was the creation of friend and tea assistant volunteer
Yep.
of Barbs Tea Service,
Mhm.
Pam.
There you go.
And she is from the South.
All right.
She grew up in Atlanta and New Orleans.
Right.
So, and she's an amazing cook.
We have been beneficiaries of that skill.
We have indeed.
Yes.
And so she had talked about doing something like this, and I thought it was great.
Mm-hmm.
But then she paired up
Mm-hmm.
with another friend of ours, Rosemary.
Mm-hmm.
And Rosemary also had roots in the South.
Right.
Her maternal grandparents, were from Arkansas.
Right.
And she'd spent summers there.
Mm-hmm.
So she had a lot of ideas as well.
Yeah.
So put those together,
Uh-huh.
and along with Rosemary's sister,
Mm-hmm.
Charlene, they put together this amazing menu.
Mhm.
So what's a Southern themed afternoon tea?
Some Southern-related things, I'm guessing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So instead of scones, we had grit cakes and
Uh-huh.
biscuits.
Mm-hmm.
To the savories, the tea sandwiches, there were pimento cheese sandwiches.
We love pimento cheese.
Oh my gosh, we do.
Yeah.
And actually, one of our listeners said that she knows of a place that serves pimento cheese sandwiches only.
Does heaven exist?
I know. I want to go do there.
Yeah.
And then for dessert, we had things. A couple of the items were a buttermilk pie,
Mm-hmm.
and then something called a sad cake.
Oh.
But it's not describing some of my baking efforts.
Oh.
If you recall the sticky toffee pudding incident,
Well, it was an effort.
it was an effort. And I think I'm still chipping off some
Right.
sticky toffee pudding out of the oven. Anyway, the sad cake gets its name from how it performs as far as in the oven.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's baking, it rises,
Mm-hmm.
and then it slowly deflates.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it looks sad.
Yeah. We've had days like that.
We have had many days, especially when I'm in the kitchen.
Ah.
But it was delicious
Yes.
and a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So that was our Southern-themed afternoon tea. And as I've mentioned before in previous podcasts, I think this is going to trend. I think
it should.
It really should. Going back to things that you like or part of your heritage, I want to do a Scandinavian themed afternoon tea.
We're pushing it.
Oh, we can do Trinary toast.
Yes.
Limpu bread.
Uh-huh.
We could do, I don't know if we'd have to add a little bit of coffee.
It could be.
But, so I think it's just something that's got a lot of people thinking. So we'd love to hear some of your ideas on that too.
Very good.
Okay. And I think we have covered most of what we wanted to talk about today. I did want to mention, though, that, again, another plug for Barb's Tea Service, Downton Abbey Tea Talks, Bridgerton.
Yes.
They are flying off the shelf. And speaking of shelf.
Okay. Uh-oh.
We talked about the shelf life of tea in our last podcast.
Yes. Uh-huh.
We've heard from some readers that inspired them to do their own
editing.
Yeah. And taking my own advice.
Yes.
I went through my tea cabinet.
There was a flurry of activity, to be sure.
And I was a little surprised at some of the expiration dates.
Yeah.
But knowing that it wouldn't taste good, and I wouldn't want to serve it to guests.
No.
So we kind of heeded our own advice.
There you go.
So
nice.
We not only talk the tea, but we throw
out
the tea.
We toss the tea.
Toss the tea. Oh, that's even better.
Right.
Okay. So, all right. I think I may hear that sound.
There we go.
Oh, I think the tea kettle is telling us it is time to wrap up.
Wow. Number dozen.
So, okay. So we want to thank everyone who's been listening, watching, getting us to number 12.
There you go.
And also to On TV Studios for having us in the studio. And we'd like you to come and visit us at barbsteaservice.com.
Yes.
Or email us at barb@barbsteaservice.com. Love to hear your suggestions or any kind of feedback.
Yep.
And as we like to say at Barb's Tea Service, please stay tuned.
Very good. Okay.